The most compelling part of his presentation focused on human warfare and survival strategies. He demonstrated how humans consistently defied computational predictions, introducing unpredictability as a tactical advantage. Traditional military algorithms failed to model human behavior because of their emotional complexity and creative problem-solving. Yet the Council's response was uniform and dismissive. Diplomatic protocols barely masked their collective condescension. The Trelbian ambassador, a massive figure whose mandibles clicked with barely contained amusement, spoke for most present. Humans are children, playing with technologies they barely understand. Your potential is irrelevant compared to established galactic civilizations. Jack Miller knew the presentation's true purpose wasn't to convince, but to create an official record. Something in his decades of experience told him that humanity's moment would come. Whether the Council believed him or not was ultimately inconsequential. As he concluded his presentation, a subtle smile played across his lips, the smile of someone who knew something the others did not. The seeds of warning had been planted, and time would reveal their significance. The Krell invasion fleet emerged from subspace with calculated precision, a massive armada that blotted out stars as it approached the Sol system. Thousands of bioengineered warships moved in perfect synchronization, their organic metallic hulls pulsing with an almost living energy. Each vessel represented generations of Krell military engineering, ships that had conquered hundreds of civilizations, reducing entire planetary populations to mere historical footnotes. Krell tactical algorithms predicted a complete subjugation of Earth within 72 hours. Their computational models were infallible, having successfully mapped and dismantled countless civilizations across the galaxy. Humanity was just another target, another statistic in their expansive conquest log. The initial assault began with a devastating first wave. Massive energy weapons carved through Earth's orbital defense platforms, transforming sophisticated satellites and space stations into rapidly expanding clouds of molten debris. Communication networks flickered and died. Military installations erupted in cascading explosions, and major population centers became immediate targets of precision strikes. From the Krell perspective, the attack was clinical, almost surgical. Their weapons were designed to maximize infrastructure destruction, while minimizing unnecessary biological waste. Large urban centers in North America, Europe, and Asia were systematically reduced to smoking craters. Electromagnetic pulses swept across continents, intended to completely disable any potential technological resistance. What the Krell didn't understand was the fundamental nature of human infrastructure and social organization. What appeared to be total destruction was merely the beginning of a transformation they could not comprehend. Military installations that seemed obliterated were actually decentralized networks with redundant communication systems. Underground facilities, long prepared for potential global conflicts, initiated emergency protocols developed over decades of strategic planning. Civilian communication networks, initially thought destroyed, began to reorganize with remarkable speed. The first signs of unexpected resistance came within hours of the initial assault. Krell long-range sensors detected bizarre computational anomalies. Destroyed communication nodes would suddenly flicker back to life through improvised rerouting. Disabled military systems would unexpectedly transmit coordinated response strategies. Krell, battlefield intelligence, so confident in its predictive capabilities, began experiencing inexplicable interference. Tactical projections became increasingly unstable. The smooth, mathematically precise invasion plan started showing fractures. Most critically, the Krell failed to understand human motivation. Each destroyed city became a rallying point. Each fallen infrastructure became a catalyst for unprecedented mobilization. Where other conquered civilizations would have collapsed, humans began to adapt, improvise, and prepare for a resistance that would soon shock the entire invasion force. Krell commanders, reviewing their initial strike data, saw nothing but confirmation of their strategic superiority. They could not recognize the subtle, almost imperceptible signs of the storm that was about to be unleashed. Humanity was far from defeated. In fact, the real battle was just beginning. Aboard the lead Krell command ship, senior military strategists reviewed their preliminary invasion data, completely unaware that every moment of their supposed victory was actually setting the stage for their ultimate downfall. Within hours of the initial Krell assault, human civilization underwent a transformation that defied every known principle of military and social organization. What appeared to be chaos was, in fact, a highly distributed, almost organic response mechanism that no computational model could have predicted. Manufacturing plants across the globe began an instantaneous metamorphosis. Automobile factories retooled themselves in record time, converting production lines from civilian vehicles to combat equipment with a speed that would have been considered impossible just days before. 3D printing facilities, research labs, and even consumer electronics workshops became impromptu weapons development centers. The key to this remarkable adaptation lay in humanity's unique social network infrastructure. Social media platforms, communication networks, and collaborative online spaces that the Krell had dismissed as frivolous entertainment systems became the nervous system of a global resistance. Amateur engineers, scientists, military veterans, and passionate civilians began collaborating in real time, sharing designs, strategies, and technological innovations at a pace that overwhelmed the Krell's computational tracking systems. In Silicon Valley, a group of retired tech engineers and young programmers developed a distributed computing network that could hack and disrupt Krell communication frequencies. Midwestern farmers modified agricultural equipment into makeshift armored vehicles. Robotics labs in Tokyo repurposed industrial automation technologies into combat support systems. Most critically, humans demonstrated an ability to learn and adapt that completely shattered the Krell's understanding of technological evolution. Where the alien invaders saw specialized, rigid systems, humans saw potential for constant modification and improvement. A drone design developed in the morning would be completely reimagined by afternoon, with improvements crowdsourced from thousands of contributors worldwide. Psychological warfare became an unexpected weapon. Human communication networks began broadcasting messages designed to exploit the Krell's rigid computational thinking. Disinformation campaigns, creative psychological manipulation, and unpredictable communication strategies created massive interference in the invaders' strategic planning. Military veterans who had been marginalized in peacetime suddenly found themselves at the center of global defense strategies. Their real-world combat experience, combined with the technological innovation of younger generations, created a hybrid warfare approach that was completely alien to the Krell's understanding of conflict. Educational institutions transformed overnight. Universities became research and development centers for resistance technologies. Students became critical components of the global defense mechanism, their diverse backgrounds and creative thinking providing solutions that traditional military structures could never conceive. The Krell's initial assessment of human potential had been catastrophically wrong. What they perceived as a disorganized, emotional species was actually a highly adaptive, globally connected organism capable of unprecedented levels of rapid innovation and collective problem-solving. Each destroyed city, each fallen communication network became not a defeat but a catalyst for new, more innovative approaches to resistance. The human capacity to transform trauma into motivation was a weapon more powerful than any physical technology. As the first week of invasion concluded, the Krell found themselves confronting a resistance that bore no resemblance to any conflict in their extensive galactic conquest records. Humanity was not just fighting back. They were rewriting the very principles of warfare itself. Psychological warfare became the most unexpected and devastating weapon in humanity's arsenal, a dimension of conflict that the Krell's computational minds could never fully comprehend. Human emotional complexity transformed from a perceived weakness into an unprecedented strategic advantage that systematically dismantled the invaders' mental fortitude. The first breakthrough came from an unlikely source: global media and communication, in networks. Human broadcasters began crafting messages that were far more than simple information transmission. These communications were intricate psychological tools designed to exploit the fundamental vulnerabilities in the Krell's collective consciousness. Captured Krell soldiers experienced unprecedented mental breakdown when confronted with human communication strategies. The invaders' society was built on rigid, predictable computational models of interaction. Humans, by contrast, operated on a spectrum of emotional and rational responses that defied all standard analytical frameworks. Propaganda broadcasts mixed brutal honesty about human losses with an almost incomprehensible sense of hope and determination. Each message contained layers of psychological complexity, mourning and defiance intertwined, raw emotional vulnerability paired with unbreakable resolve. The Krell's communication intercept systems struggled to parse these transmissions, finding them simultaneously nonsensical and deeply threatening. Military psychologists discovered that human trauma didn't work like the Krell expected. Where other conquered civilizations would have collapsed, humans transformed grief into motivation. Each destroyed city became a rallying cry. Each fallen soldier became a symbol of resistance that multiplied human determination exponentially. The global communication network became a weapon more sophisticated than any physical technology. Social media platforms, once considered trivial, entertainment systems, transformed into distributed psychological warfare centers. Memes, personal stories, historical references, and real-time battlefield accounts created a narrative of resistance that was impossible to predict or counter. Krell troops found themselves confronting an enemy that didn't follow any known rules of psychological engagement. Human communication was simultaneously personal and collective, emotional and rational, specific and universal. Traditional methods of demoralization simply didn't work. Linguistic experts discovered that human languages themselves were weapons. The ability to use metaphor, sarcasm, multiple layers of meaning, and emotional nuance created communication channels that the Krell's translation algorithms could never fully decode. What seemed like random noise to computational systems was actually rich, complex messaging that carried profound psychological impact. Most critically, humans demonstrated an ability to transform collective trauma into collective strength. Each broadcast, each communication, carried an underlying message that was more powerful than any weapon. We are not just surviving. We are adapting. We are evolving. Krell psychological warfare units, designed to break the spirits of conquered populations, found themselves completely outmatched. Their standard procedural approaches, isolation, information control, systematic demoralization, collapsed against humanity's interconnected, emotionally resilient communication networks. The invasion was no longer just a military conflict. It had become a battle of will, of narrative, of psychological adaptation. And in this arena, humans were not just participants. They were masters. As weeks of conflict continued, Krell command units began experiencing something they had never encountered in centuries of galactic conquest. Genuine, inexplicable fear. The humans were not just fighting back. They were reshaping the very concept of psychological warfare. Approximately 2 weeks into the invasion, humanity's counteroffensive began, a coordinated effort that would redefine the very concept of interstellar warfare. What started as a defensive struggle transformed into a systematic dismantling of the Krell invasion force, achieved through a combination of technological innovation, psychological resilience, and tactical creativity that defied every known principle of military engagement. The first signs of true turning came from unexpected sectors. Civilian infrastructure that the Krell had deemed destroyed proved to be a complex, self-healing network. Retrofitted commercial satellites became advanced communication and targeting systems. Agricultural drones were weaponized into sophisticated reconnaissance and attack platforms. Manufacturing facilities that appeared obliterated quickly reconstructed, themselves in underground and distributed facilities. Spacecraft told the most dramatic story of this transformation. Cargo ships, passenger vessels, and commercial space vehicles were rapidly converted into makeshift warships. These vessels, lacking traditional military design, became the most unpredictable weapon in humanity's arsenal. Their non-standard configurations confused Krell targeting systems, while their civilian-engineered modifications allowed for maneuverability and adaptive tactics that professional military vessels could never achieve. Quantum computing breakthroughs, developed in collaborative online platforms, provided the technological backbone of the human counteroffensive. These systems could process and adapt to Krell communication frequencies faster than the invaders could modify their encryption. What appeared to be random electronic warfare became a precise, distributed attack on the Krell's computational infrastructure. Military strategy underwent a complete transformation. Traditional hierarchical command structures gave way to a more fluid, decentralized approach. Every citizen became a potential strategist, every network a potential battlefield. The line between civilian and military personnel blurred completely, creating a holistic defense mechanism that was impossible to predict or counter. Psychological warfare reached its apex during this period. Human broadcasts began directly targeting the Krell's computational understanding of conflict. Deliberately contradictory messages, complex emotional narratives, and strategic disinformation created massive interference in the invaders' strategic planning. The most critical breakthrough came from a series of coordinated attacks that targeted the Krell's logistical infrastructure. Rather than engaging in direct military confrontation, human forces systematically dismantled the invaders' supply chains, communication networks, and computational systems. Each attack was designed not just to destroy, but to create cascading failures in the Krell's military organization. Orbital engagement became a testament to human improvisational capabilities. Civilian space stations were transformed into mobile defensive platforms. Asteroid mining equipment became precision weapons. Communication satellites became jamming and reconnaissance systems that provided real-time strategic information. The Krell found themselves confronting an enemy that refused to follow any known rules of warfare. Every computational model, every strategic projection collapsed under the weight of human unpredictability. What had begun as a standard conquest was rapidly transforming into an existential threat to the Krell's entire military doctrine. As the counteroffensive intensified, it became clear that this was more than a defensive struggle. Humanity was not just fighting for survival. They were fundamentally reshaping the understanding of interstellar conflict itself. The Galactic Council chamber felt different this time. Gone was the dismissive atmosphere of their previous meeting. Now, a profound sense of reverence and barely concealed apprehension permeated the crystalline space. Jack Miller stood at the center once again. But this time, he was not a warning. He was a testament. The Krell Empire lay fundamentally transformed. Rather than total destruction, humanity had executed a surgical dismantling that would reshape galactic political structures for generations. Their approach was not one of revenge, but of strategic recalibration, a nuanced intervention that demonstrated a level of sophistication far beyond military conquest. Diplomatic representatives from across the galaxy studied Miller with a mixture of fear, respect, and genuine curiosity. The human delegation represented something entirely new. A civilization that could wage war with unprecedented precision while simultaneously demonstrating a complex understanding of systemic reconstruction. Miller's presentation was masterful. He didn't gloat about military victory. Instead, he methodically outlined how humanity had transformed the Krell's entire societal infrastructure. Their rigid computational hierarchy had been systematically replaced with more adaptive governance models. Educational systems were redesigned. Communication networks were fundamentally reimagined. The most shocking revelation was humanity's approach to the conquered civilization. Rather than subjugation, they offered a path of collaborative reconstruction. Krell technological and cultural systems were not destroyed, but reimagined. Their military-industrial complex was transformed into a framework for peaceful development and interspecies cooperation. Psychological profiles of Krell leadership revealed a complete breakdown of their previous hierarchical structures. The invasion's failure had exposed critical vulnerabilities in their social organization. Humanity had not just defeated them. Militarily, they had demonstrated a more effective model of civilization development. Other galactic civilizations watched with a mixture of terror and fascination. Humanity had emerged not just as a military power, but as a transformative force in galactic politics. Their ability to adapt, to innovate, and to reimagine complex systems went far beyond traditional understanding of technological or military capability. The Trelbian ambassador, who had once mockingly dismissed Miller's initial warnings, now sat in stunned silence. The very qualities they had ridiculed, human emotional complexity, adaptability, and seemingly chaotic innovation, had proven to be the most sophisticated form of evolutionary strategy. Miller's final statement was deceptively simple. We are not conquerors. We are problem solvers. This single sentence encapsulated the fundamental difference between humanity and previous galactic civilizations. Where others saw conflict, humans saw opportunities for collaborative development. Where traditional military power sought destruction, humanity sought transformation. The Galactic Council realized a fundamental truth that would reshape their understanding of interstellar relations. Humans were not just another species. They were a force of nature, unpredictable, resilient, and fundamentally committed to progressive evolution. As the meeting concluded, an unspoken understanding settled over the chamber. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had been the catalyst of that change.